I don't even know why I'm wearing that. That's not gonna do anything since it's just a review.
To establish a company and to do it well, the first thing you need to do is to make a good product.
What's up? It's been a while. I've been meaning to do this review for quite a while, and I feel kind of guilty for holding off, but I just thought I would do this now. I have my notes. I need to get back to the movie soon, so I can't keep putting this off. Um, so, anyway, this is the review for The Current War. Um, it's basically a movie about Thomas Edison, George Westinghouse, and Nikola Tesla, with supporting characters between. Um, it was an awesome movie. I really liked it. I'll just get that out the way. It it was very interesting to see the events dramatized from three different angles. I guess what I want to say is like it didn't really feel like a protagonist antagonist kind of story. It was like there were two and a half or maybe even three if you really want to stretch it protagonists, and you kind of got to see each of their angles, and nobody was really like a bad guy, but there were like they each were kind of against each other in a way, so it was kind of unique in that respect. I felt that Benedict Cumberbatch and Tom Holland played off of each other very well, so it was kind of cool seeing that they've developed some sort of chemistry, as a result, I'm assuming, of the Marvel movies being Doctor Strange and Spider-Man.
I'm Peter, by the way.
Doctor Strange.
Oh, you're using your made-up names. Then I am Spider-Man.
And Nicholas Hoult, who was Beast in X-Men for the past, like, I guess 10 or so years. He was pretty good as Nikola Tesla, too, although he didn't have a whole lot of interaction with the two of them, which makes sense thematically for what I'm trying to say, because they don't really have any history there. Although when he did, interact with Benedict Cumberbatch, that was also pretty good. He didn't interact with Tom Holland, I think, at all in the movie. But their characters, there wasn't really any reason for them to. I liked the actor portraying George Westinghouse. I don't really know his name. In fact, I'll look that up real quick just because I feel ridiculous for not knowing somehow. But it's got a really bad review on Rotten Tomatoes from what I just saw. I think it's Michael Shannon. Yeah. I thought he did a really good job as the character in making it dramatic, yet kind of like he was the most like realistic, I guess, person of the group, because he's just a kind of a regular guy. He's business savvy, but he's not, and he's like a veteran, but he's not like a genius like the rest of them. I'm really looking forward to seeing him in Knives Out later this year. I think he'll be interesting in that. It was fun to see Nicholas Holt's take on Tesla. I don't really know too much beyond just the fact that he was more like more about the coils and more electrical as like a scientific possibility. I don't really know what you would want to say. He's like more of a theorist rather than a experimentalist or something. I don't really know how to say that, but it was cool to see more about the character because I just know him as basically the guy that, in The Prestige helped Hugh Jackman's character do the trick or whatever. And then I know obviously about the electric cars now, which I guess is kind of a big thing now that I know more about him because he was the one that built the kind of like alternating current engine or whatever back in the day. I thought he did a good job as him from what I know. But it was cool to see him being like hyper analytical and OCD as a character, like it, because I don't know that side of him, and it made for an interesting scene in the hotel. Later on into it, there was a scene in the hotel with Westinghouse and Tesla, and you could just really see that his brain operated very weirdly, and it was just kind of cool. I thought it was an interesting movie ethically. It really presents a lot of questions and makes you kind of think about, what is truly good for the people and like what's the right way to go about doing things. There's like the basically it's a whole discussion of like pride versus the betterment of the people, which is kind of interesting. It kind of made me, I guess, think of really kind of made me think about like who, like, what I'm trying to say is in the movie, it's like you're watching it, and I guess a lot of people didn't think this way because there's a lot of bad reviews out there. I, again, personally really liked it, but it made me kind of think about these guys and who they were and how really we wouldn't be. I mean, I guess somebody would have eventually done it, but theoretically, we could have not been anywhere near where we are today without them. And it just kind of makes you think like these were great men. I mean, humans, but man, whatever, you get it. And it kind of just made me think, well, where are all the great people today? And then I started thinking about, well, you've got Elon Musk out there. He's like, probably the most famous genius type we have these days, and he's inventing things or coming up with ideas for things or funding things. And then I started to sit there and think, and I was just like, you know what? I think the problem is not that we don't have enough great people in the world. I think the problem is more perceptive or perception. I kind of think that we live in an era where, and this is a good thing, it's not a bad thing, where everybody can be a great person and everybody can have ideas and create stuff and feel free enough to say that or put it out there. I don't think enough people do, but like I think a lot of people get content and just do the same thing day in and day out, which is why I'm here, to try and do something different for myself, both in the YouTube thing and the going out and seeing movies and stuff like that. Just trying to kind of get my wheels turning a bit and make me think differently and act differently, just so I can grow as a person and improve as an individual. So I guess my question to you, the viewer, is like, do you agree? Do you think that the world is in a state of, endless possibility because everybody feels entitled to be able to create or put their ideas out there or do different things than what, like, because we have so much more opportunity now? Is that a good thing, or is it possibly even a bad thing? With so many people creating stuff and churning stuff out, myself included, there might be people that don't get noticed that should. At the end of the day, is that a good thing, or is it basically, are we in a point in time where there's so much quantity that the quality has diminished, or is it just that it's being buried in content and inventions and ideas that are being put out there? And if not, if there's a lot of quantity and a lot of quality, well, then what do we need to do to reach the good in people and like find what things people can come up with to make everyone else's day better? I guess that was, a really deep dive kind of into the weeds of it, but it's just something that's been on my mind since watching the movie. I like to talk about the trailers I see during movies. That's kind of becoming my format now, as I go through a movie and then I go through trailers. So I'm probably going to do that real quick, to kind of get you thinking about what I'm looking forward to see in the near future, hopefully to review. My thoughts on trailers for the movie Knives Out, mentioned before, with the George Westinghouse, Michael Shannon character. He's a member of this family in this movie, but I'm excited to see it, despite it being directed and I guess written or whatever by Rian Johnson, the guy who did Star Wars The Last Jedi and kind of started to ruin the franchise for me, even though it looks like it might be turned around again by J.J. Abrams, so we'll have to see how that goes. But anyway, it looks like a comedic mystery with an absolutely astounding ensemble cast. That was my notes for that trailer. It looks really good. It's got Chris Evans or Captain America. It's got the guy who plays Darius on Atlanta. I can't think of his name. It's got Daniel Craig, so James Bond. It has Jamie Lee Curtis, the Scream Queen from Halloween, which unfortunately rhymes, and just several others in it that make it look really good. It also looks like it should be pretty funny and interesting throughout, so I'm really anxious to see that movie. Doctor Sleep, I think this one's actually out now, so I need to go see that soon. Sequel to Shining, which is one of my top 20 or so movies of all time, I would say. Maybe 10. I don't really know how high up the list it goes, but I have to see it, obviously. It has Ewan McGregor, and it's, sequel to The Shining, so there's not really a whole lot more that needs to be said about that. The only thing that makes me concerned about it is that it's not Stanley Kubrick, obviously. So that would have me a little on edge about it, but I think it should still be good. It looks pretty interesting, and it looks a little deeper into the lore, I guess. Like, less just... Like, there's weirdness, but I don't think it's trying to just be outright weird for the sake of being weird. Like, I think there's a deeper aspect to it, so it could be really good. There was a trailer for Black Christmas, the remake to that slasher flick from, I think, the 70s. And honestly, I kind of just feel meh about it. I mean, it could be good, but it just doesn't really have anything that's, like, making me want to see it, even though Carrie Ewells or the guy from the, Princess Bride, he's, seems like he's, like, a bad guy, and that can be kind of cool, but other than that, I don't really have any leanings either way. It looks kind of typical and dull to me, but I don't know. There's a trailer for a movie called Honey Boy, which is some indie-ish looking movie about child acting, starring Shia LaBeouf as the kind of creepy dad, as I called him. Like, I wouldn't say outright he's probably a pedophile. That's the vibe I get, though, is that he's just kind of skeezy. But he might just be that he's, like, warped in the head because he was too, maybe, a child actor, and now he's kind of putting his kid through the paces of it or something. I don't know. What I do know is that after how good Peanut Butter Falcon was, I'm pretty sure anything with Shia would get my attention, and I'm sticking by that note, because that movie was really good. And for some reason, it's like these smaller, lesser-known, like, indie movies, like the Current War, Peanut Butter Falcon, that have actually kind of gotten my interest more, other than, like, Joker or some other major, like, big movies. But for the most part, it's the smaller, lesser-known stuff that's actually appealing to me a little bit more lately. Maybe I'm becoming a film snob. I don't know. I kind of hope not. But there was a movie called Burden, another indie-ish looking movie. It's about a guy leaving the KKK and trying to find redemption in a religious black community, is how I described it. Like, the beginning of the trailer makes it look like it's going to be like a remake of American History X or something like that, but then it swings way harder into just the drama rather than the, like, tension aspect of it, and kind of becomes a little bit more closer to, like, a heartwarming indie movie rather than, like, a dark, gritty movie like American History X was. But it looks good. That's really all I had to say about that one, I guess. But the next one has me really excited. It's Dark Waters, and it's Mark Ruffalo as a corporate defense attorney that takes on DuPont for corruption and poisoning a city's water supply. It's like drama and suspense with possible horror elements, because there's, like, a scene in the trailer where he's obviously being chased through, like, a parking lot, and it just looks really creepy, or a parking garage rather. So it looks really cool. With how the Flint, Michigan water crisis is still going on somehow, and how, from what I've been told growing up, we had a major DuPont plant here in Old Hickory, for years and years and years. I think like around 100 years is what I found when I looked it up, until literally just a couple years ago basically shut down to the point where there's only a few actual workers in the area or something like that, from what I'd read. Anyway, it just looks really cool. I want to see that because it looks high tension, high drama, and it seems kind of relevant. Lastly, lastly, there was the trailer for Cats again.
So this trailer came out for Cats, bridging the uncanny valley into what I can only describe as if Avatar fucked a furry.
I don't, really, want to see this. I'm not going to say I want to see this. It still seems weird as shit, but every time I see the trailer, I do notice that Jennifer Hudson is really, really good at singing that song, and you know which one it is.
Memory all alone in the moonlight.
Stop,
not
stop.
a sa-
Okay, good. That's pretty good. All right.
But that's where I'm going to call it. The Current War, I feel like, was a good movie that apparently isn't being well received, but I personally liked it. I thought it was pretty good drama and a different take on how to do movie or storytelling, I should say. And I thought that the actors did a good job playing their roles. It made me more curious about the individuals beyond what I've heard in history classes for all these years. And it made me just really think about where we are today versus where they were then, and how basically, for just a funny thought, like by the end of the movie, Tennessee, they had like this map that they were showing throughout the whole movie, and Tennessee never even got lit up. And just seeing how techish, and I don't know, it was just interesting driving home that night, seeing all the lights on all the cars and stuff, and just thinking, wow, we've come a long, long way, and I just can't even imagine that they would have any anticipation for getting this big. I'd give it a 7.5 maybe out of 10. I liked it a lot, but I could see maybe where there were some issues with it, where just because it is focused on these 3 to 4 characters, there's not like a whole lot of craziness going on. It's just literally the race between them all and the moves that they made to get where they were going. But I still found it really interesting. Anyway, that is The Current War, and I will see you in the next review. Okay, bye.